Hey there, Bixby developers. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do some custom responses as well as to have confirmations in Bixby Home Studio. So what I mean by custom responses is that we can actually have Bixby provide its own custom response based on what you want Bixby to say to the end user after going through a Bixby Home Studio flow. And for confirmations, you can have Bixby Home Studio ask if the user is sure they want to commit to this action by asking a yes or no question. In order to get started with this guide, it is highly recommended that you do have some knowledge on Bixby Home Studio. I highly recommend these two videos, the Bixby Home Studio introduction as well as the quick start guide, which the links to both of these will be down in the description below. And in order to do this guide, you will need to create a simulated virtual switch, which you can do in your SmartThings app. Then you just go to Menu, Labs, Virtual Switch, and you will be able to create that virtual switch. Now, you can only create a virtual switch if you're in the US, UK, Canada, India, or South Korea, so do keep that in mind. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the guide. So we're going to start this off by creating a new project for this. And for this, I'm going to be using my Smartish plug. All this is a cheap smart plug that plugs into the wall and you can just turn it on and off using voice. So we're going to start by creating metadata from scratch, and we're going to select the power switch, which is somewhere around here. There it is. And we're going to select just the power switch off and on intense, and we don't need a project name. We're just going to click done. So first things first, we actually need to get some graphs going, and we need to be able to turn this thing on and off. So we're going to open up the graph for the power switch on. And in here, we have some sample graphs, which we can just use. We're going to start off with turn on the device. So just like this, we should be able to turn on the smart plug that I have plugged in. And voila, it did indeed turn on the switch. Now let's go ahead and also set up our power switch turn off graph as well. And all we're going to have to do is to switch this one to off. Click save. And let's also change the comment here, turn off the device, just so it's a little less, or it's a little more consistent with what's actually going on. So click try it. And indeed, it did manage to turn off our graph, or turn off our switch as well. So now that we have these simple graphs set up, we're going to start adding some custom responses. Right now, Bixby just says something pretty straightforward and simple like, got it, okay. But we can certainly have Bixby provide us with a much more interesting and engaging response. In order to do that, we can go over here on the left and click this little plus icon next to the dialogues, and we can name this whatever. So turn on switch. And click save. So in here, we're going to select our locale. You can choose various different languages and stuff, but for this example, we're going to stick with just a simple EN or English response. And just type whatever you actually want your custom response to be. In this situation, I put what an incredibly big brain decision for when you turn on your switch. So now that we have our custom dialogue here, how do we actually use it? Now, it is not with this actual response success node, so we're going to go ahead and just delete that. And in here, just type in response and you'll find this response node. Drag it in, and now we click select dialogue. However, in order to access the one we just created, instead of the system, we select the metadata. And right here, we have turn on switch, which is what an incredibly big brain decision. So just click save, and now we want to connect this node after the switch is turned on into this response node to trigger this response node. So now if we click try it, we'll see at the top, Bixby will return the prompt, what an incredibly big-brained decision. So there we go. We learned how to create a custom response here. However, we're going to also want to learn how to create a prompt where Bixby prompts the user for, in this case, a simple yes or no question. In order to do that, we go over here and then we have this ask node. We can also just search for it like this, and we're going to want the ask confirmation. So we want this ask confirmation node to just ask the user, are you sure you want to turn on the switch? But of course, we're going to need to create another custom dialog for that. So let's go ahead and click the little plus icon, confirm, turn on. And now we do the same thing. We add an en dialog for this. And for this confirm turn on, I'm going to have Bixby say, turning on this switch will have fabulous results. Are you ready to be fabulous? And if we go back to our turn on graph, now we can select that dialog by selecting the metadata, and we're going to have the confirm turn on. We're going to click save, and now we're going to want to connect this node first over here. And we're going to then, after it asks and it's successful, then it will then turn on the device. However, we're also going to want another response for if the user selects no. So let's go ahead and add another response node, just like this, by simply clicking and dragging. And when the user says no, we're going to connect it over to this new responses trigger. And let's go ahead and also create another custom response for this. And I'm just going to name this reject turn on. And we're going to add another en locale response. And if you reject Bixby's offer to turn on the switch, it will respond with, that's unfortunate. I still think you're fabulous though. So now we have to select that response that we just created, and this by going to the drop-down metadata and reject turn on, which is the new one that we just made. And now let's go ahead and try this. Turning on this switch will have fabulous results. Are you ready to be fabulous? And if you say yes, it will indeed turn on and then respond with our other custom response, which was, what an incredibly big brain decision. However, let's go ahead and try it and this time say no. We can see here that it now routed to the other response that we created for the no scenario, which is, that's unfortunate. I still think you're fabulous though. So there you go. Just one example of how you can create some custom responses as well as a custom yes or no prompt in Bixby Home Studio. We will be using things like this in a future tutorial where we're going to put a lot of this stuff together to actually create a useful and engaging scenario. So just a quick note about the dialogue in this tutorial. It is a bit more fabulous than the way that Bixby naturally speaks to people. So here is the actual dialogue design patterns documentation. If you are actually trying to write some dialogues that are compliant essentially with Bixby's dialogues, then do check out this link down in the description below. And yeah, that's it.